Please be seated. I'd like to begin with the psalm, a psalm that I know very well, have heard many times, said many times, read many times, prayed many times. A song of confidence in God's abiding presence and that we are known by God. A song of comfort and reassurance. There is no need to fear. It's also about willing to be totally open, totally known by God, as in fact we are anyway, but it's about recognizing that and being comfortable with that. To stand before God naked in body and spirit, knowing that we are known. There is no hiding from God. You press upon me behind and before and lay your hand on me. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. It's about being at peace with ourselves as well as with God. And it is about willing to be challenged and to be open to change and to being changed. See if there is any wicked way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. But this is only part of the story, because as you may have noticed in your bulletin, it says Psalm 139 verses such and such to such and such and such and such to such and such, so to speak. In other words, we're missing verses 13 through to 22. Verses 13 to 18 give us more about being known by God from even before we were born. For it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, that I know very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed. How weighty are your thoughts, O God, how vast the sum of them. I tried to count them. They are more than the sand. I come to an end. I am still with you. We kind of need to pause and digest those words, really. Knowing that we are known. Awareness of oneself, presence in the face of the mystery of being alive, of existing. How weighty are your thoughts, O God? How vast the sum of them. But then the tone changes in verses 19 to 22. Oh, that you would kill the wicked, O God, and that the bloodthirsty would depart from me. Those who speak of you maliciously and lift themselves up against you for evil. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with a perfect hatred. I count them my enemies. Well, it's honest, at least. Standing naked in thought and inclination, an expression of righteous indignation, perhaps. I'm sure we can all identify with the sentiments of frustration and outrage at the deeds of the wicked in the world. The continuing murder of children in Gaza, the continuing war in Ukraine and senseless killing, the fiasco in the Strait of Hormuz, the continual assault on the rule of law in the United States, and the brazen disregard for morality and justice, the rise of hate-fueled politics at home as well as abroad. And speaking of hate-filled politics, oh, that you would kill the wicked, O God. Oh, that you would rid the earth of this blight. Oh, that you would do us all a favour. Do I not hate them with a perfect hatred? Why not root out all the bad seeds of the earth? The earth is a beautiful garden and yet seems beset with so many weeds. What is to be done? Cue the parable of the wheat and the weeds. It's a picture of reality, a picture of the world, but it's a picture of ambiguity, the coexistence of good and evil. The point is simple and clear. If you try and root out the evil, bad seeds, you'll end up doing more harm than good. Khalil Gibran, a Maronite Christian poet, writes in his book, The Prophet, "If any of you would punish in the name of righteousness and lay the axe unto the evil tree, let him see to its roots. And verily he will find the roots of the good and the bad, the fruitful and the fruitless, all entwined together in the silent heart of the earth." Or, as Jesus says in the parable, in gathering the weeds, you would uproot the wheat along with them. Instead, allow them to grow together and wait for the harvest. Then the good and the bad will be separated. Then comes the judgment. The parable does not only not deny the presence of good and evil, but it suggests that it may not be possible to tell them apart, and certainly not to separate them. Our human inclination is to want to do something about it. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, and do something about it now. Apply sanctions, punish someone, even if they don't happen to be responsible, even if they happen to be the poor or children or people simply caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Fire some more rockets, order some airstrikes, send in the Marines. Do I not hate those that hate you, O God? Yea, I hate them with a perfect hatred. This is not only likely to make a bad situation worse, as we see over and over again, and multiply the suffering and sow yet more seeds of discontent and resentment that will eventually bear their own bloody fruit in the perpetuation of the cycle of violence. But it also fails to take account of the ambiguity in terms of where the root of the evil lies. It fails to take account of both our own potential or actual participation in the cycle of violence and how we both mould and are moulded by the reality of the world as it is in all its ambiguity of good and evil. So the parable recognizes right and wrong. It envisages that ultimately right will become clear and be separated from the wrong, and that God is the judge who will make the judgment. We are not the ones to make that kind of judgment, separating out right from wrong. And there are two reasons to resist the temptation to indulge in such celestial gardening. And the two reasons are, firstly, we may just be wrong. It's hard to admit, I know, and it's important that we hold to what we believe with conviction. That is to say, we believe something to be right because we really believe that it really is right and not because it suits us or benefits us. And likewise, we believe some things to be wrong because they really are wrong. But it is just possible that in some areas and on some issues we are mistaken. And hopefully we all know and can identify and can admit that we have been mistaken in the past and that we have learned from our mistakes. We kind of need to pause here as well, don't we, and sort of think back to how we were 10, 20, 30 years ago and how we've changed, and the things that we thought then we no longer think, and the ways that we thought then have been modified by the way the world's changed, or by the way we've changed, or by circumstances. My math teacher used to rejoice when I made mistakes on the basis that we learn from our mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, so I guess I must have learnt a lot. He was probably the best teacher I ever had. Perhaps when we consider the church or the world to be full of wheat and weeds, we sometimes find ourselves among the weeds. And I don't mean as a pristine, shiny sheaf of wheat amidst a bed of weeds, but we find ourselves as a weed amidst weeds, or even a weed amidst some long-suffering stems of wheat. And this brings me to the other reason why it's a bad idea to try separating out the weed from the wheat. In the parable, we're told that the farmer sowed good seed, and that the reason there are weeds growing amongst the wheat is because an enemy has come and sown bad seed. And this suits the purposes of the parable, though it doesn't really help us much in accounting for the presence of evil in the world. And I have a hard time of thinking in terms of a rigid, essential distinction between good seed and bad seed. The idea that there are intrinsically good people and there are intrinsically bad people. I mean, if you think about it in a garden, what is a weed? A weed is just a plant that you don't want to grow there, and usually a plant that grows there really easily, unlike the plants that you're actually trying to grow. It's like life, really, isn't it? None of us are perfect, and all of us are flawed, and yet each of us is created and accepted and loved by a God who wants us to be redeemed and to become all that we can be. Any idea that some people are irredeemably bad seed runs counter to this and can only lead to our writing them off. And though we may say God is the judge who will weed them out in the end, in our heads, even by saying that, we've already begun to do the weeding out. We've already written them off. And honestly, it is completely understandable. We have a perfect example in the story of Jacob's ladder. Jacob's vision of the stairway to heaven, with the angels ascending and descending, a glimpse that the heavenly realm is closer than we think if we have but eyes to see. In the story, Jacob is fleeing from his brother Esau, having cheated him out of his birthright. Jacob has been very devious. Jacob has been very bad. And as a result, he's now on the run, in fear of his life, leaving the land that God promised to his grandfather Abraham and his descendants, and is now heading back to the land from which Abraham came, Haran, or as we would say, Iran. Jacob is a bad seed on the run. There is a real sense in which this whole episode is a backward step in the fulfillment of God's promises. And yet, this is precisely the moment when God renews his promise and does so to the wayward seed, the wayward bad seed, Jacob. Jacob has a long way to go, both geographically and morally. And in both senses, he is heading in the wrong direction before God will bring him back to this land. Was Jacob bad seed who somehow, because of God's faithfulness to him, became good seed? Or was he good seed from the beginning because he was chosen by God, as God's promise in the dream would seem to suggest? Perhaps that's 2020 vision with hindsight. From God's point of view, the end was known from the beginning. But from Jacob's point of view, the journey was as real as his geographical journey. So it is with us as we journey through this pilgrimage of life. All who are led by the Spirit are children of God, says St. Paul. All who are led by the Spirit are children of God. But which comes first? Do we become children of God by being led by the Spirit, or are we led by the Spirit because we are children of God? Are we already children of God? Sounds simple. You may even wonder whether it matters, and it probably doesn't. But it is one source of the disputes that have divided the church since the Reformation, and perhaps probably before that too. And how you answer it reflects or determines how we see other human beings and how we relate to them. It determines whether we actually see people as human beings. And just as a slight side issue, I can't remember all the details, but I heard about a book that has been written and published in the United States this week, and it's called Unhumans. Unhumans. And it's all about identifying people who are sort of undermining their idea of a perfect society and regarding them as, well, not really human. I mean, we've talked about certain political ideologies dehumanizing people, but I think this is the first time when I've actually heard it out in the open being embraced by such ideologies in a book entitled Unhuman. Are people intrinsically good or bad? Or is it a case that the field where the wheat and the weeds are to be found, where the good seeds and the bad seeds have been sown, is actually in the heart of every human being? Khalil Gibran again. For what is evil but good tortured by its own hunger and thirst? Verily, when good is hungry, it seeks food even in dark caves, and when it thirsts, it drinks even of dead waters. And Gibran again. Oftentimes I have heard you speak of one who commits a wrong as though he were not one of you, but a stranger unto you and an intruder upon the world. But I say that even as the holy and the righteous cannot rise above the highest which is in each of you, so the wicked and the weak cannot fall lower than the lowest which is in you also. As a single leaf turns not yellow but with the silent knowledge of the whole tree, so the wrongdoer cannot do wrong without the hidden will of you all. Like a procession, you walk together toward your God self. You are the way and the wayfarers. And when one of you falls, he falls for those behind him, a caution against the stumbling stone. Aye, he falls for those ahead of him, who though faster and surer of foot, yet removed not the stumbling stone. Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote, if only there were evil people somewhere committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the dividing line between good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.